All right, so we just my cousin's over here, so if you hear a distant voice, that's that's why. But we just got out of It Chapter 2. We're gonna do this in one because this movie's so goddamn big, Jesus Christ. But got out my second IMAX screening and went and saw this again today for a second time, and the reactions to the film have been pretty mixed for the most part, but bizarrely, ever since I saw the film, it's kind of just been creeping up on me, and I've been returning to the film in my mind, and I was like, fuck, I don't even know what to rate this movie. You know what I'm saying? It's almost as if the director, it's almost like he sat down and it's almost like at first the director had like a traditional, standard, ordinary sort of narrative style sequel to the first film, you know? It's almost as if he had a normal idea. And then he was like, no, fuck that. I want to make something operatic. I want to make something that's like a love letter to the novel, to Stephen King's weirdness, to like that larger than life style that you see in like a Freddy Krueger film, like Nightmare on Elm Street. The film actually ends with the kids curiously walking past the theater that has Nightmare on Elm Street number 5 on there, which I don't think was just like some random thing. I think the director's speaking to the audience directly when he did that, you know, by saying that like, you know, this film is like it's a reflection of that. This film is a reflection of what you saw in those Freddy Krueger movies, you know, this movie is loud, you know, there's sequences with Pennywise in broad daylight, which was interesting. You know, there's hammy moments, there's cheesy moments, you know. But you know, it feels intentional in a way. You know, I watched Speed Racer recently from the Wachowskis, and ironically, when I saw the marketing campaign for Speed Racer way back in 2008, when I first saw it, I was just like, man, Speed Racer looks so... I knew nothing about it. And I was like, man, Speed Racer looks so whack. It looks so cheesy. It just looks so hokey. Like, what the fuck is this shit, you know? But then, cut to now, right? And I find out that, oh! Well, Speed Racer is an adaptation of, like, this 60s Japanese cartoon, you know? So I was like, oh, well, no wonder the movie's like that, you know? And, like, with this new It film, I was, like, expecting, like, this scarier, creepier It sequel. That's what I was expecting. And what I got instead is Andy Muschietti, is that how you say his name? His last name is awesome. But the film that Andy has given us instead is, like, this deeply disturbing, imagery-filled, like, psychedelic nightmare, you know? And it's like this love letter to like, the novels, it seems, so... Or at least to Stephen King's weirdness, definitely. Speaking of weird, there's an actual scene with Stephen King that cracks me the fuck up. And it's like it shouldn't work, and it does. And I think that's what's so great about this movie. There's so many sequences that I'm just like, man, that shouldn't have worked. But when I walk away, I'm like, it kind of does work. Like the scene where those fortune cookies burst, and like this eyeball comes out, or like there's like this spider, baby spider thing, you know. And when I first saw it, I was like, it's really kind of cheesy. Like I'm supposed to be terrified of this moment, right? But when I thought about it later, I was like, man, even though it didn't scare me, it admittedly does feel like I'm witnessing some kind of active nightmare. Like I'm watching a nightmare in real time, like a real nightmare, you know? Like when that black dude has that chair and he's like banging down on the table and he's like, it's not real, it's not real. And then they strip away all the horror elements and like the frame is shaking even, you know? And you really feel like you just got done watching some fucking fever dream, like some fucking nightmare, you know? It wasn't scary, but it does feel nightmarish, Stephen King-ish, actually, you know? Somebody actually had wrote in my comment sections, someone who had claimed to have read the book, someone that claims to have read Stephen King's books in general, have wrote this really cool comment that I'm about to bring up in just a second. But I don't know. I hear a lot of your guys' complaints about the movie. A lot of people think that the movie's overlong. A lot of people think that the film is not scary. A lot of people, well, unfortunately, this is an issue I have with the film as well. The CGI in the film, we'll return to that in a second. But so one of my subscribers wrote, I've read almost all of King's books, and they're really not scary. They're psychologically fucked up. I think that's one of the reasons why I love this film and The Last. It's not that they're scary. It's just that they're just so psychologically fucked. They're so disturbing. I kind of get wafts of like Ari Aster in a way, or even like Rob Zombie. There's so many times where there's many sequences here where I'm like, shit kind of reminds me of like this weird fucking shit Rob Zombie's doing in his movies, whatever the fuck that dude's doing in his movies. Kind of reminds me of that. There's like a real brutality to the film that is unsettling, Thoughts on all this so far? What do you think about this?
Man, I think it was amazing.
My cousin saw it for the first time today. I saw it for a second time today, but
I pretty much agree. It was like watching it wasn't scary at all.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, after a while I wasn't looking to be actually scared or walking away like somewhat movie traumatized, but
mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it for what it was. It wasn't like, okay, going to see something like you're enjoying it for what it was and you're lowering your expectation totally.
Yeah.
Still it was really good. It was like, it felt like it.
Yeah.
And I still enjoyed it a lot.
Another complaint was that people thought it was too similar to the first film, which is not entirely wrong. I mean, it is visually, at least.
I didn't think about the first film at all. Are you talking about like the
Some people think that
the originals?
it's too. No. Only that film.
Okay.
The first film. Yeah, the 2017 film. I'm only referencing the 2017.
I mean, what are they saying? What are they saying that makes?
They say it's too similar. Like some of the scares too similar. Admittedly, the third act of this film and the third act of the first film are actually genuinely pretty similar. For example, like remember the fridge that like opens up and Pennywise is all pretzeled in there. He kind of like snaps his way out. There's sort of a repeat of that in this film where the fridge opens up and like that one kid sort of he's pretzeled in there. He kind of snaps his way out. There's like little mirroring going on, but
there's a lot of mirroring going on, but
it didn't bother me personally.
Yeah, you're right. It was a lot of mirroring going on, of course, because like it's almost like.
Because for me, I thought this was a much like nastier, darker, more sinister film.
It started off nastier, like from the beginning, so it already lets you know, like
yeah.
we're kind of like we're not playing the same way we were playing the first time. We are similar, but we're like they started off with this unsettling.
Oh my god. Okay. First, oh my god. I love this movie, man. I know. I get it. I hear you. I hear you. I know, like, there almost seems to be like a Last Jedi effect going on with this fucking movie, but, or even Glass, like I loved Glass, and so many people were just like, hated it, and they just walked off, and like,
this movie isn't,
alright.
This movie isn't, my opinion, this movie isn't great by any means, but it was really good. It was good for a theater experience in IMAX.
Yeah.
The way I saw it.
I disagree. I think it's a great film, but go on.
I think it's really good. I think maybe I need to watch it again. Long story short, I did miss some parts.
He missed like two of my favorite scenes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did miss
like
some
whole
parts.
sequences.
So, well, from what I've seen, I was like, okay, this was like really good. Okay, You know, it was better than watching Far From Home.
But yeah, I think it's a great film. Another thing, so like one of the reasons why I love the film is darker, more sinister. Another thing that I really enjoyed is that it's like bizarrely like psychedelic sequel to the first film. Like if the first film was like some sober man, the sequel seems to be like someone who just like snorted a line of cocaine and did some psychedelics or something. It's just all over the fucking place, right? I love the way that it comes on, where like the sound design is remarkable, but like the first thing we see is like it just like snaps. The very first frame of the film is snapping to Beverly, and like her eyes are all whited out, and she's like levitating, you know. And then like it just like whoa boom, and then like we're she's doing a flashback to when everybody was in a circle and they sort of did the blood oath, you know. And I was like, you know, I heard a lot of mixed reviews, but I was like, God damn, this started off pretty solid. And then when and then out of nowhere, it gets to that sequence with the gay couple, right? And I was just like, it's not something I expected to see in this sequel, but man, people are gonna have an issue with them so boldly displaying these two their love for each other. Good old man. The dude next to me, he had made some homophobic comment, but I truthfully can't remember exactly what he said verbatim, to be honest with you. But he had said something, I forgot what the fuck he said. Because I'm just remembering that happened. But anyway, so yeah, I was just like, man, like, I can feel it. If this were a YouTube video, I can feel the dislikes already, good lord. But when the gay couple, when they get somewhere, I think like under a bridge or something, and this like this gang of thugs, if you will, show up, and they just beat this couple senseless. You know what I'm saying? Holy goddamn! I had a feeling, sort of, that was gonna happen a little bit, but like I had no idea it was just gonna be like this blown out, like beating the piss out of them. You know what I'm saying? It was like legitimately horrific. You know, I'm just calling them faggots and everything. I was like, holy shit! And then. That like the aftermath of that is how Pennywise shows up, was just one of the craziest fucking ideas ever, you know. And then kills that that one guy by like eating out his fucking chest or some shit, and all those balloons come in. Man, I just thought it was the cinematography was wonderful, and then the opening credits sequence, you know, the main title card, you know. There's sort of like these weird, like rainbowish colors, like flashing lights, you know, and it's just like almost like powering up, you know. But the main title card, like the sound design that's happening there, the music that's happening there, the light show that's happening there, it's just like, what the fuck am I about to witness, man? It's weird. I wasn't expecting. I guess I was expecting a much more simplistic film, to be honest with you. I was expecting a much more straightforward film. I wasn't expecting like for them to just lose their minds like that. Like that one bizarre moment with you know, Bowers comes back, right? And he's like this old man in a psych ward, which I thought was really cool. He sees the red floating balloon, you know, and his old dead buddy like comes out from underneath that bed, remember? And he's just like, like gives him the knife, you know. And then when Bowers breaks out of prison, you know, gets in the car and the fucking dead bastard's like in the driver's side, and he's like, boom, and drives off. I was like, the movie is filled with so many horrific, like phantasmagorical, like imagery. It's just like, holy shit, you know. Some of the imagery here kind of reminded me of why I loved Mandy so much, you know. Because the overly surreal horror imagery is just like mind-boggling. Especially because in this film there's like fantasy-like elements, which was like, that was not something I was expecting, you know. Like when James McAvoy was tripping, you know, he's looking at that weird objects from the Native Americans. I forgot what this fucking thing was called. And he was like seeing that mythos, which was just like kind of reminded me of imagery out of Darren Aronofsky's Noah, actually, which was interesting. But yo, my favorite sequence in the whole film, okay, because I tapped his shoulder when it happened because I love the sequence so much. But there's a moment that happens that is like the best transition from like comedy to something I'm going to attempt to describe that I've ever seen. But like, at first it was funny because Bill Hader, he was saying something, he's like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, or something stupid like that. And then out of nowhere, Bill Hader was just like, bah! And like his eyes would roll back into his head, and fucking Pennywise is like giant Ant-Man size, you know what I'm saying, from the MCU. Like he was just like a giant, and like his head's like shark-like, and like Pennywise, like you can see down his throat, and you see those, you know, those 3 lights that like can hypnotize people, you know. That part blew my mind. And one thing that was interesting is that like when my cousin was describing that sequence, he was describing it as like it emphasized like how ancient and demonic Pennywise must be, you know, as a being, you know. Like this motherfucker could have been around for thousands of years plaguing people for all we know. Like maybe he was back in the times of the of the fucking pyramids fucking with people, you know. Now would be a good time for me to say that I have not read the book. Have you ever read the book? Yeah. We have not read the book yet, but still gave the first film gave the first film a 10 out of 10. This one I'm gonna go with a strong 9 out of 10 for this one. Again, I've been thinking about this movie for like the past like whatever the fuck it's been, 48 hours or something like that. And I was like, I need to see this again because it was the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be. Again, I was expecting something a little bit more simplistic and something more graspable, you know? I wasn't expecting the director to give me like this, you know, love letter to Stephen King's weirdness, you know? His bizarre sense of humor, his horrific violence, you know, disgusting violence, these insane creature moments. I can't get that image out of my mind of like the spider Pennywise spider, you know, when he's got like spider legs. Kind of remind me of like Gremlins a little bit, but yeah, there was like a spider version of giant spider version of Pennywise. Jesus Christ. I'm trying to think of all my favorite sequences in the film. But first, I do just want to say that the cast is perfect. I don't think that you could have found a better cast. Any quick thoughts on that? Because they look... I don't know if you guys have done like a fucking like a, you know, like a side-by-side. I think there's literally a video of this, like a side-by-side of all of them. And it is weird how similar they look. Like, I'm convinced that maybe they just got cloned or something, the actors, the older ones, because, my God, do they look... Especially the guy who, let me see if I can pull it up really quick, the character's name. The one character that used to be heavier set. Ben? Yeah. Ben when he's older, but that actor looked exactly like the kid counterpart. It's so weird. The guy who plays the older version of Mike, you know, if you like look at their eyebrows or like their facial structures right here and shit, it is unnerving how similar they look to each other. God damn. It's quite remarkable. I thought all the performances from pretty much everyone was pretty solid. The guy, James Ransone, who plays Eddie, he was so fucking similar to Eddie, it almost blew my mind. There were actually negatives that I had with the film the first time around that I had to retract surrounding Eddie's character. Because at first, I was like, when I was looking at James's performance as Eddie, at first I was like, it's really fucking hammy, man. It's really cheesy, you know? Like his acting during that one scene where he like gets stabbed in the cheek, you know, by Bowers. There's just a few one-liners from him, like when they were leaving the that one Asian restaurant, and what does he say when they were leaving it? He said something like, "I fucking knew it! I fucking knew it!" There's sort of like moments of humor with him where I was like, this just feels cheesy, man. What's going on here? But then when I left the film and I thought about like the original character, the kid, and I thought about his mannerisms, which I had completely forgotten about. The movie came out in like, last movie came out like 2017 or something. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but when I thought about that child actor's performance, I was like, oh, well, fuck me, James did a great job, because that fucking kid acted exactly like that. As cheesy as it is to see an adult acting like that, I was like, goddamn, he's acting exactly like that dumbass fucking kid, you know what I'm saying? Shit, I was wrong. So yeah, seeing it for a second time really helped. I don't know if it'll help you guys. I mean, maybe you might see it a second time and like, you might think even worse of it, but seeing it for a second time really helps clarify things a bit, you know, because there's like so many scares, you know, scary sequences, you know, stacked on top of each other, you know what I'm saying? There's so many like psychedelic horror images stacked on top of each other, and there's just so many sequences in general that there's like bunches of them that I just completely fucking forgot about. If I'm being honest with you, it's a huge movie. I do agree that certain scenes could have definitely been removed. I feel like maybe with the exception of the opening 5 minutes, like I feel like virtually every flashback moment with them as kids could have been removed from the movie, if I'm just being honest with you. I didn't think they were like 100% necessary for me to watch the film, you know? Like in the ending as well, if you want to have some flashbacks there, that's kind of okay, you know? Because there was a moment where like it showed them as adults and the camera panned to like a mirror and it showed them as kids, and that with the music, I was like, fuck, that gave me goosebumps. But there were so many times where like it would cut to them as kids, and it's like, goddamn, again, fuck. Like it. Then we just watched a whole first film of them as kids for 2 hours. I don't think we need to see them as kids anymore. But so I do think it was overlong. But other than that, I don't know. I really fucking enjoyed this movie, surprisingly. That Stephen King sequence, what the fuck was that shit? That could have been cut too. As much as I enjoyed that Stephen King sequence, that's another example of shit that could have been cut. That could have been removed. That being said, it was like a surprisingly like delightful, funny ass scene with Stephen King. Bizarrely. You would think I would like walk away hating it, but it was, I don't know. I think that's the thing. Is that there's just so much going on, you know, with this movie, you know? There's like cheesy parts, there's like surprisingly unsettling, disturbing moments, there's like hilarious moments. It's just kind of, there's like weird horror cliches. It's like a collage almost, you know? There's a lot the director's throwing at you. And the director's talked about how I think initially this was like a 4-hour cut or something, and there's a longer cut coming. He also talked about that super cut, which my crazy ass would actually watch. That sounds interesting, where it's like the first film and this film like fused together in some psychotic super cut. Because when I was little, the It VHS with Tim Curry, like it was like 2 VHSs, so like the first VHS was like them as kids, and the second one was them as adults. And like when I would watch that, I would watch those back to back, and it felt like, I mean, I was essentially doing that. I was watching a supercut, you know. So that would be kind of cool to see, because I liked doing that as a kid. It was interesting seeing that Tim Curry's story that way. You know, it made it feel like you were watching some kind of saga or something. And by the time this movie winds down, it does feel like you just got done watching like some kind of. You almost feel like you attended some kind of event or something, like something big, like something epic. You know, I feel like that's because it is epic, but my God, it. I think my cousin fell asleep over there, but I love the film. I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. You still awake over there? You done over there? I think he's done. But look, what do you guys think about the film? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm trying to run through the film to see if there's anything else I left out that I wanted to talk about. There was one moment that he didn't get to see, which was the scene with when they're in the house in the third act, and that the severed head of that boy like grows legs and attaches itself to Bill Hader's head, and it's like snapping that Bill Hader's face and like drooling on his face, you know. James McAvoy's trying to like pull it off, you know. That sequence was so crazy. I think they're like paying homage to like John Carpenter's Thing or something like that. But that sequence was completely insane to me. It just like it just like bothered me. It was just like it was genuinely unsettling. Ugh. It was just like this big disgusting insect, especially when the severed head, like after it gets stabbed in the head with the knife, it like rolls away and it looks back at them and like it smiles at them before it like rolls away into the darkness. It's just so much batshit imagery like that in the film. It's wild. I also really loved when James McAvoy ran inside that fun house, you know, and he's like running through those hallways that are like transparent, and there's like panes of glass, you know. It's like something out of 13 Ghosts, you know, and like he sees the kid, but he can't get to the kid because of that pane of glass, and then we see Pennywise suddenly, and like the way that Pennywise is sort of like smacking his head on the pane of glass, and he breaks through, and he like eats the kid, and the kid's blood like sprays across the glass, and like James McAvoy's like devastated performance, like that whole sequence was so nutty. Also love James's performance when he's by that sewer. His hand gets caught. I was like, whoa, he's really selling this. Like the acting I thought was really good. God, it's like this movie's tripping or something. It's just so bonkers. That one scene where Beverly's in that room and it's like filling with blood, and like we're seeing all these different versions of people like slamming up against the door, and that one person's like, "Here's Johnny," you know, which is like maybe officially the weirdest visual Shining reference ever. What the fuck? Also, that might have been the most fake blood in a movie scene ever, but like, that was just so wild the way that like Beverly and that one guy, their hands are like this, you know, because he's like sinking into the ground, she's drowning in that river of blood. Just the surrealism in this movie is just something that I just utterly loved. You know, it's sort of like pays homage to classic filmmaking too. Like when the movie's first coming on, like the, you know, Mike's narration, you know, him being like a narrator, you know, the opening credit sequence, you know, like the font style, like it's, I don't know, it just feels like it's trying to be like a classic horror film. And I hope this does become like a cult classic one day, because I just had a blast with this thing. Cracks me up that my cousin is like just knocked the fuck out over there. Is there anything else? Fucking Stanley slit his wrist. Yo, that scene where everybody meets up for the first time at that Chinese restaurant. I'm not sure which one, but they went to an Asian restaurant, and when they meet up there, it's just their chemistry with each other, their banter with each other, the humorous, feel-good vibes that they were exuding. Like, I just loved it. The beautiful music playing. It was just amazing. The way that it transitioned from that to the horror elements, like when they had those fortune cookies and it spelled out that message, like to like when those creatures were coming out of the fortune cookies, to when Mike was like, "It's not real, it's not real." Like, it just like it went from like lighthearted to just like Stephen Kingish nightmare, so quick, and it's just madness, The movie is just madness, The guy next to me, he was like, the scene at the beginning with the gay couple, he's like, when that scene ended, he's like, that didn't even need to be in the movie, wasn't even a part of the movie. But I disagree, it showcased that, like, this movie is just madness, This movie is just crazy, It's capturing that manic essence of Pennywise, that one sequence where, and I love, Bill Skarsgård is unbelievable. He's unreal as Pennywise in this movie. Like, that one scene where he's in broad daylight, to when, like, that little girl's in the bleachers and, like, Pennywise is, like, talking to her, and, like, Pennywise is, like, he's, like, being creepy, and then, like, he's being cute, and then sometimes he's being funny. It's just, like, they took a very Freddy Krueger sort of they went a very Freddy Krueger sort of direction with Pennywise in this film. Because, like, here in this movie, like, Pennywise, more so than the first film, in this movie, Pennywise is just so funny and, like, cute and cuddly and terrifying and nightmarish, like, all at once. He's like a variety of different things, and it's wild, man. It's wild. Him as Pennywise is unbelievable. That one scene where we see him without makeup, and he starts, like, painting his face and he's talking to Beverly. He was genuinely creeping me the fuck out. He was genuinely creeping me the fuck out. Gosh, let me see here. Oh yeah, the CGI, what the fuck? What was that? That was one thing I didn't like about the film. The CGI. It wasn't nowhere near as bad as how I thought it was gonna be, but the CGI on Ben and the CGI on Richie just did not work. It looked like there was, like, bizarre Instagram filters on their faces. like Richie, he looked like he had, like, big bumblebee fucking eyes or some shit. Like, I was like, what the hell's going on here? So yeah, I didn't like that. I did think that there were a lot of scenes that could have been removed, you know what I'm saying? Mostly kid related, but, like, I think they could have took out a lot of footage. That being said, if there's, like, a longer cut that has, like, more scares and, like, more the adults, I would actually, bizarrely, would love to see that, because I don't know. Sometimes the cheesy moments didn't work for me. Sometimes it felt overlong, sometimes CGI didn't work for me. And all in all, I think the execution of the first film is more refined than this, but I gotta say, I had so much fun with this movie. I was so entertained by this movie, and I just thought this movie was just such a bonkers sequel to the first film, so much so that, like, I loved it. I just don't think that this movie is, like, a masterpiece, but I can't believe I'm saying this, I really loved it. It was like a psychedelic Stephen King trip, you know? So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I really loved it, but what do you guys think about this? I know it's got a lot of mixed reactions, which makes sense because this movie's out of his fucking mind. It's so long, it's so self-indulgent, it's just like, holy shit. It's crazy. But I had a crazy fun time with it. But what do you guys think about it? I think the only other thing I was going to touch upon was the movie hints at the fact that Richie is like gay or bisexual, Bill Hader's character. It didn't ruin anything for me. It didn't bother me. I don't know. My cousin was saying that he felt that it felt forced or something like that. I actually thought it was pretty subtle, personally. I didn't think it was like. I didn't think we were being force-fed about like Richie's sexuality or anything like that. So I didn't really mind it. There was what else? I heard someone else complaining about the fact that like all the kids were pretty much successful when they grew up, but I was like, that didn't really bother me too much. Yeah, no, that didn't really bother me too much. I mean, I think if everybody was in a Beverly type of situation, it'd been kind of weird. But no, it didn't bother me to see that they were all doing pretty good, you know. So yeah, not to mention like, in fairness, like their backgrounds. I mean, these kids were, man, they've been through some fucked up shit as a kid. So like, no, I didn't think it was that weird seeing how successful they were when they were older. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've exhausted everything that I wanted to say about the film. I think. Let me double check here. But no, when the movie was ending, I could see how it's like, oh God, you guys could have ended like minutes earlier. But I don't know. By the time the movie ends, it feels like the ending to like a Stephen King novel, you know? It feels novelistic the way the movie ends, and like I genuinely had goosebumps when you're hearing the music and you're seeing those kids ride off into the distance for the last time. I don't know. I had a blast watching the movie, but hey, motherfucker, what'd you think about it? Let me know your thoughts down below. How's that? I'm back. Wait, there's a couple things I wanted to say really quick because I just thought about them. Number one, I bizarrely kind of had sympathy for Pennywise when he was dying, and when they showed him, and he was like a little baby Pennywise, and his head was like pancakes against that wall. That shit made me chuckle because he was just like this cute little thing that I just wanted to like hold in my arms and rock like a little infant. So there's. So there was that, and there was one other thing that we were just talking about that I want to talk about. I forgot what it was. What was the last thing we were talking about? I can't remember, but I wanted to talk about that because that part, I love the baby Pennywise. Fuck. Anyway, we're not drinking beers. One other thing I wanted to add. Want to see what you guys thought. So, in the first film, I think Pennywise died because they weren't afraid of him, right? I think in this film, he dies because it's that, and they destroyed his ego. They killed his ego. You know, I think that's why he died in this one. You know, they killed his vanity, you know what I'm saying? Destroyed it. This self-image of himself that he must have on a pedestal, you know what I mean? Anyways, we're done now.